In Abeokuta, where the sun blazed down on a bustling market square, where travelers come from different places, because of the various bus stops, there stood a food vendor's shack that everyone knew. The owner, Mama Kemi, was famous for her pepper soup and jollof rice, dishes so rich and flavorful that people traveled miles just to taste them. Her food store was modest but not too big, tucked near a busy junction where traders, bus drivers, and shoppers crossed paths. Yet, the crowds were enormous. Rich businessmen in crisp suits abandoned their fancy restaurants to sit on plastic stools, eating with their hands. Drivers parked haphazardly along the road, risking fines, just to grab a plate. Even passers-by who had no plans of eating would be tempted by the aroma wafting through the air. Mama Kemi's secret recipe remained a mystery. Many claimed it was her spices, imported from remote villages. Others whispered that she had a blessing from the gods. But no one could argue that her food was unlike anything else in the entire region. Amid the noise and commotion of the market, one figure stood out, a madman named Folktale. He was a tall, wiry man with matted hair and clothes that hung loosely on his bony frame. His laughter echoed through the market as he wandered aimlessly, talking to himself and occasionally shouting at the top of his lungs. Folktale had a habit of stopping near Mama Kemi's stall. While the crowd jostled to be served, he would stand at a distance, pointing his long, bony finger and laughing hysterically. "You're all eating from the pot of the dead," he bellowed one afternoon, his voice carrying over the chatter of the market. "Do you hear me? The pot of the dead." The customers ignored him, as always. To them, Folktale was just a madman with strange ramblings. What did he know about food or anything else for that matter? But there was something unsettling about the way he laughed. It wasn't the usual cackle of a man lost in his own world. It was sharp and deliberate, as if he knew something no one else did. Despite Folktale's persistent warnings, no one paid him any attention, not even Mama Kemi. She would often laugh off his ramblings, brushing them aside as the nonsense of a madman. Her focus remained on running her business, and nothing would get in the way of that, not even Folktale. She had her ways of handling him. Every few weeks, Mama Kemi would slip a little extra money to the market task force, instructing them to keep the madman away from her store. At first, this seemed to work. Folktale's appearances became less frequent, and the bustling atmosphere of her food store carried on without interruption. Yet, Folktale was not easily deterred. No matter how much he was pushed away, he always found his way back, lurking at the edges of the crowd. His haunting laughter echoed from the far corners of the market as he pointed toward the customers. "You're eating death. All of you," he yelled one afternoon, his voice rising above the noise. A few customers glanced his way, annoyed by the disturbance, but no one left their seat. The food was far too good, and the growing line at the store was proof of that. People waited patiently, plates in hand, eager for a serving of Mama Kemi's famous jollof rice or steaming pepper soup. Mama Kemi's store had become a legend in Abeokuta. Traders from other towns often stopped by just to have a taste, and stories of her food had even reached the ears of wealthy businessmen and women in Lagos. Some days, the crowd was so overwhelming that people fought to be served first. She worked tirelessly, ladling generous portions into plates, her wide smile never fading. "Next! Next!" she called, moving swiftly through the crowd. But not everyone was pleased to see her success. Across the road from Mama Kemi's bustling store was another food vendor, Iya Titi. Her small shack sat quietly under the shade of an old mango tree, her pots of steaming food barely drawing attention. Day after day, she watched as the crowd swarmed Mama Kemi's store. It was like a festival over there, with people laughing, eating, and arguing over who would be served first. Iya Titi couldn't understand it. She sold the same dishes as Mama Kemi, pepper soup, jollof rice, fried plantains, but her store was almost always empty. Her prices were even lower, yet people passed her by as if she didn't exist. It stung to see her hard work ignored, but what baffled her more was the madness of Mama Kemi's customers. She had seen wealthy men, dressed in fine clothes, washing plates with their own hands just to eat there. She had seen traders abandon their stores for hours, risking losses, just to stand in line. It didn't make sense. And then there was the madman, Fatai. Iya Titi had often noticed him lurking near Mama Kemi's stall, laughing hysterically and pointing at the customers. "They're eating from the pot of the dead," he would shout, his voice carrying across the market. While others dismissed him, Iya Titi couldn't shake the unease his words brought her. Fatai might be mad, but what if there was some truth to his ramblings? Something wasn't right. No business should thrive the way Mama Kemi's did, not without something unusual behind it. One evening, after a long day of watching her pots grow cold and untouched, Iya Titi sat on a wooden stool outside her store, her chin resting in her hands. She watched as Mama Kemi's customers thinned out and the store closed for the night. Her thoughts swirled with questions. What made Mama Kemi's food so irresistible? Was it really just the taste? Or was there something else, something hidden? Despite her disbelief in supernatural powers, Iya Titi's curiosity grew stronger each day. Mama Kemi's success was unlike anything she had ever seen, and the question swirling in her mind refused to fade. How could someone selling the same food as her have crowds fighting to be served, while she barely made enough to cover her expenses? There had to be an explanation. Then one evening, after yet another slow day at her store, Iya Titi made up her mind. She would seek answers, even if it meant turning to something she didn't fully believe in. As she packed her pots and locked her store, she cast one last glance at Mama Kemi's shack. The crowd was as thick as ever, with people jostling, laughing, and savoring every bite of the food they had fought to get. The scene filled her with both frustration and determination. She had to know the truth. Instead of heading home, Iya Titi walked to the edge of the town, where the path to the chief priest's house began. The chief priest, known as Iya Agba, was a figure both feared and respected in Abeokuta. An old but sturdy woman, her reputation for seeing beyond the physical world was legendary. Many came to her seeking guidance, blessings, or answers to their deepest questions. Upon arriving at the chief priest's house, Iya Titi was greeted warmly by the elderly woman, who sat on a woven mat surrounded by flickering candles and the scent of burning herbs. After exchanging brief greetings, Iya Agba fixed her sharp gaze on Iya Titi. "Why have you come to me at such an hour?" the chief priest asked, her tone calm but curious. Iya Titi, mustering her courage, explained her reason. "I seek answers, Iya Agba. There is something strange about Mama Kemi's food stall. I can't explain it, but I know it's not natural. I need to understand why her store is always overflowing with people, while mine is empty. Please, help me uncover the truth." The chief priest nodded, her expression unreadable. "So, you seek what lies hidden," she said, her voice thoughtful. "Truths such as these do not come lightly. But if you are willing, I can guide you." "I am ready," Iya Titi said firmly. Without another word, Iya Agba began her walk. She reached for a calabash filled with dark liquid and murmured ancient incantations, her hands moving gracefully over the bowl. The air in the room grew heavy, and Iya Titi felt an unfamiliar chill crawl down her spine. After several moments, Iya Agba stopped and reached for a small bottle filled with a fine, grey powder. She held it out to Iya Titi, her eyes locking onto hers. "This powder will reveal what is hidden," the chief priest said. "But you must use it carefully. Sprinkle it beside Mama Kemi's cooking pot, when no one is watching. If you succeed, you will find the answers you seek. But be warned, once the truth is revealed, there is no turning back." Iya Titi took the bottle with trembling hands. Relief and anxiety battled within her. Finally, she had a way to uncover the mystery. "Thank you, Aya Akbar," she said, bowing deeply. The chief priest nodded solemnly. "Go, and be cautious. The spirits do not favor careless hands." With that, Iya Titi left the house, the bottle clutched tightly in her palm. The night air was cool against her skin as she made her way home. Her mind raced with thoughts of what she would do the next day. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at the small bottle on her table, she felt a mixture of relief and dread. Tomorrow, she would uncover the truth about Mama Kemi's success. But something told her that whatever she discovered would change everything. The next day, when Iya Titi arrived at the market, everything seemed normal. The bustling energy of the marketplace filled the air, with traders shouting to attract customers and the aroma of freshly cooked food wafting through the stalls. As always, Mama Kemi's store was the center of attention. The crowd around Mama Kemi's store was even larger than usual. People were fighting to be served, waving their plates in desperation. Some had come from neighboring towns, drawn by the reputation of her food. Laughter and chatter echoed from her customers, their satisfaction evident with every bite. Iya Titi, however, was not there to join the frenzy. Today, she had a mission. She arranged her pots and wares as usual, her eyes constantly darting toward Mama Kemi's store. Her heart raced as she reminded herself of the chief priest's instructions: sprinkle the powder beside Mama Kemi's cooking pot when no one was watching. She sat quietly in her store, pretending to be preoccupied, but her mind was working furiously. How would she approach the store without being noticed? Would there be a moment when the area was clear enough for her to act? As she observed, the familiar figure of the madman, Fatai, appeared in the market. His wild hair and ragged clothes were impossible to miss. He began his usual antics, pointing toward Mama Kemi's store and laughing hysterically. "They're eating from the pot of the dead," he yelled, his voice carrying above the noise. His words, like always, were ignored by most of the crowd. A few people glanced at him with mild irritation, but they quickly returned their focus to their plates. But this time, Iya Titi paid attention. She studied him carefully as he circled the crowd, his laughter taking on an almost desperate edge. His eyes, wide and intense, seemed to linger on Mama Kemi's cooking pot, as though he could see something others couldn't. A chill ran through Iya Titi. What did he know? Could it be connected to the powder she now carried in her pocket? Determined to proceed with her plan, Iya Titi waited patiently, her hands resting on the edge of her store. She watched every movement at Mama Kemi's store, looking for an opportunity. The afternoon hours brought the usual rush to Mama Kemi's store. The marketplace buzzed with energy as bus drivers, traders, and laborers all swarmed her store for lunch. The crowd was chaotic, with people arguing over who would be served next, their hunger making them impatient. Iya Titi knew this was her best chance. She wrapped her shawl tightly around herself, took a deep breath, and approached Mama Kemi's store. Her face was calm, her movements unhurried, as if she were just another customer. "Good afternoon, Mama Kemi," she greeted warmly. Mama Kemi barely looked up, her hands busy scooping jollof rice onto a plate. "Good afternoon, Iya Titi," she responded. Iya Titi excused herself, saying she needed to grab a plate from the kitchen. With the crowd pressing against Mama Kemi's attention, no one noticed as she slipped past the workers into the kitchen area. The kitchen was dimly lit and filled with the savory aroma of spices. At its center was the large, black pot that Mama Kemi used for cooking. It gleamed in the light, its size dominating the room. Iya Titi's heart raced as she approached it. This was her moment. She pulled the small bottle of powder from her pocket, her fingers trembling slightly. Glancing around to make sure no one was watching, she quickly sprinkled the powder around the base of the pot, just as the chief priest had instructed. Her task complete, Iya Titi tucked the bottle back into her pocket and composed herself. She walked out of the kitchen casually, blending seamlessly into the crowd. No one paid her any mind as she slipped away, leaving the chaos of Mama Kemi's store behind. Back at her own store, Iya Titi sat down, her pulse still racing. She had done it. Now, all she could do was wait and see what would happen. The atmosphere in the market shifted abruptly as a loud, eerie noise began emanating from Mama Kemi's kitchen. At first, the sound was drowned out by the usual chatter and the clatter of plates, but it quickly grew louder, more intense, sending shivers through those close enough to hear it. People paused mid-bite, their conversations fading into uneasy murmurs. Then, the noise became impossible to ignore, a deep, vibrating hum that seemed to shake the very air around them. Curiosity gripped the customers as they edged toward the source of the noise. Iya Titi sat tensely at her stall, watching the scene unfold with bated breath. She had waited for this moment, but even she hadn't anticipated the level of commotion that was now brewing. The crowd surged forward, their curiosity outweighing their fear. Mama Kemi herself marched into the kitchen, her face set in a determined scowl. But moments later, she stumbled back out, her composure shattered. From her spot, Iya Titi saw the terror etched on Mama Kemi's face, and her heart began to pound. The chief priest powder was working. Then it happened. With a deafening bang, the large black pot in the kitchen burst open. Out of the pot came a massive black snake, its glossy skin gleaming under the dim light. Its belly shimmered with an otherworldly golden hue, and its hissing filled the air like a warning from the spirit world. The market erupted into chaos. People screamed and scrambled to get away, abandoning their plates and food. Snake! Snake! Everyone shouted, their voice rising above the terrified cries. The snake coiled itself menacingly, its golden belly glowing as if lit from within. Its piercing eyes scanned the crowd, sending chills through anyone who dared look at it. Iya Titi watched in stunned silence as people fled in every direction. Even those who had been arguing moments ago now pushed and shoved to escape the market. From her store, Iya Titi felt a mix of triumph and unease. She had sought the truth, and now it had been revealed in the most dramatic way imaginable. The marketplace descended into utter chaos. People screamed and shoved each other as they scrambled to escape Mama Kemi's store. Plates clattered to the ground, food was trampled underfoot, and chairs were overturned in the mad rush to flee. The hissing of the enormous snake echoed in everyone's ears, a sound that seemed to linger long after it had gone silent. Even the bravest among the crowd were pale with terror, their steps hurried as they ran for safety. Mama Kemi, in a desperate attempt to salvage what was left, rushed into the kitchen, her hands trembling as she tried to push the lid back onto the pot. Her movements were frantic, her usually calm demeanor replaced with sheer panic. But it was too late. Everyone had seen the truth, the snake, the unnatural glow of its golden belly, and the vibrating pot that had erupted before their very eyes. The bustling crowd, who once praised her food and fought to be served, now looked upon her store with suspicion and fear. Iya Titi stood frozen at her store, her eyes locked on the scene. The words of the madman came rushing back to her mind, as clear as if he were standing beside her, "They're eating from the pot of the dead." Her chest tightened as the reality of what she had uncovered hit her. This was no ordinary success. Mama Kemi's prosperity was tied to something dark and sinister. The snake, with one final, piercing hiss, slithered back into the pot. Its golden glow faded as it disappeared, and the pot fell silent once more. The vibration stopped, leaving an eerie stillness in the air. The marketplace buzzed with hushed whispers as vendors and customers tried to process what they had just witnessed. The sight of the enormous black snake and Mama Kemi's vibrating pot had shaken everyone to their core. Amid the chaos, Mama Kemi slipped out of the market unnoticed. Shame hung heavy in her eyes as she ducked past the few lingering onlookers. Her once proud store, which had been the heart of the market, now lay abandoned. Food was spilled everywhere, plates lay shattered, and the air reeked of fear and unease. By the time the crowd turned their attention back to her stall, Mama Kemi was gone. She had vanished as if the ground itself had swallowed her, and no one in the town saw her again. The market, once vibrant and lively, grew quiet in the days that followed. People were afraid to eat from food vendors, terrified that others might be hiding similar secrets. Even vendors with long-standing reputations faced suspicion. Customers avoided their stalls, opting instead to bring food from home. But Iya Titi, though hesitant, continued to open her stall each day. She knew the fear in the town ran deep, and she made every effort to reassure her customers. She cooked in plain view, her pot open for anyone to see. Slowly, a few brave souls began buying from her, their trust growing as they saw no signs of the supernatural. As time passed, more people started coming to Iya Titi's store. The memory of the snake and Mama Kemi's dark secret began to fade, becoming a tale whispered only in quiet corners. Iya Titi's business flourished, her store becoming a trusted place for food in the market. Her honest cooking and open ways won over the people, and the market regained some of its former vibrancy. Though the experience had faded from immediate memory, it left a scar on the town. Vendors worked harder to gain trust, and customers remained cautious. Mama Kemi's name was rarely spoken, but her story lingered in the back of everyone's minds, a chilling reminder of the dangers of greed and the secrets people could hide. For Iya Titi, life had changed forever. She had uncovered the truth, but at a cost. As she served her growing line of customers each day, she couldn't help but wonder if the darkness she'd exposed had truly disappeared, or if it was still lurking, waiting for another opportunity to surface. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I'd love to know where you're watching from, so please share that in the comment section below. I also look forward to hearing your thoughts about the story. Don't hold back. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. See you in my next video.